Hey, this is Misery Loves Company, a weekly social reading series hosted by miserytourism.com. Every Friday, we welcome outsider and transgressive writers to come and share their work. And it's Friday night, so let's get rolling here. It's Good Friday too, so I think we're gonna I know we're going to have at least one religious poem read tonight. We'll see how things turn out though. Yeah, so RIP Jesus, I guess, at the top. All right. Anyway, first up is Keith. I'll put the link in the chat.
Okay. Thanks, William. Thanks for putting the link there. Thanks, everyone, for listening tonight. There's one thing I've learned about writing. It's that you never know where it's going to take you. Preface. The writer is not suicidal at this time in any way, shape, fashion, or form. The writer is a very reliable narrator. Trusted. Please. Social media, mindsets, suicides. He is trying to escape it, but he can't. He doesn't want to be on the dark side of the moon. He wants to be in the light. He is triggered once again by social media. He writes a DM to a friend. He sends it. It reads, social media is a conundrum. Seems like we can't live with it, can't live without it. Just accept it and move on. Just like we did in 2016, when we learned that friends we thought we knew really good, we really didn't know. The world didn't end, but it changed, and we changed our mindset. We grew up a little bit. I guess that's life. And trust me, it's still great to be alive. Have a nice day. He writes another DM to another friend. He deletes it. He doesn't want to talk about suicide nor write about it, but he has written about it before. He has written several stories and poems, but has been reluctant to share some of them. The pain and hurt and guilt is still there and always will be. How could they do it? Family, friends, acquaintances. He tries to rationalize the actions. He can't. He can only change what he can control, his mindset. He's a great preacher, but a poor congregationalist. He recognizes the hypocrisy. That guy will be dead in 10 years, he hears from a friend. This is the first time in a long time that I haven't thought about killing myself, he hears from another friend. I'm on the way out, an acquaintance reveals in a veiled goodbye. He decides that it is time to share a story and a couple of poems. The time has come. This is his suicide trilogy. But poem, 1T, not 2. That feeling when you know that someone is begging for help and you're crying inside, but today I will be mute. Today I will be mute. I will not speak. I will only listen. I will be 15 years old again. I will not be allowed to speak for 24 hours. I will have chosen to accept that condition. I will embrace it. I want to be accepted. I believe that most people want to be accepted. If I violate the condition, I will be punished. I'm allowed 3 violations. If I exceed 3 violations, I will not be accepted. I will be rejected. I accept that willingly. I want to be accepted. I want to believe that I will be a better person by adhering to the condition. I will learn who I am. Today I will be mute. I will not speak. I will only listen. I will be 15 years old again. I will turn my thoughts inward. I will self-reflect on who I am and why I am who I am. I will believe that I will be a better person as a result. I will be accepted into the society. I will believe in conformity to the norms and expectations of the society. I will be a better person for society. I will be indoctrinated to believe that. I believe that my 24 hours of self-contemplation will reflect that outcome. I will be led by my guide. My guide will show me the way. My guide will be my friend. Today I will be mute. I will not speak. I will only listen. I will be 15 years old again. I will trust my guide. My guide will know what is best for me. My guide will show me the way down the paths that lead to a better life. My guide has been there. My guide is very trustworthy. My guide will help me become a better person. Today, I will be mute. I will not speak. I will only listen. I will be 15 years old again. In a few years, I will attend my guide's funeral. I'm still trying to internalize why my guide committed suicide. I trusted my guide. My guide was my friend. I've accepted that I will never internalize why my guide chose to kill themselves. I miss my guide. Today I will be mute. I will not speak. I will only listen. This one's called Another Kind of Loneliness. It's difficult, but I'm trying. Aren't there some things that we must do? You can't help them. They have to want to help themselves. Is that a cop-out to escape? I see him hanging in the closet. No, he's not in the closet. He's sitting beside his bed with a 12 gauge. No, he's not beside his bed. He's in his car, speeding towards the piling. No, it's not him, it's her. I see her. We had just left school. I see her crying. I see her. I see I. It's not about I. It's about him. It's about her. It's not a cop-out. Remember, we all watched it. The sun, the eclipse, it was gone. It came back. Don't try to escape. Don't cop out. Don't. Thank y'all.
Wow, Keith, those were really, truly powerful. And I know that this is, you've been holding on to these and you've been going back and forth about whether you should read them. And I'm glad you read them tonight, because in some ways, tonight's the perfect night to read pieces like this, because these, like the essence of Good Friday is not only death, right? But the sense of being like divinely abandoned, right? When you were reading your guide, the part of in the second piece about your guide, where you say, my guide, and get Jesus's words on the cross, my God, why have you forsaken me, came back to my head. And it's that same kind of rhythm. It's this sense of, you even capitalize guide. It almost becomes like a religious poem. It becomes a sense of this like force that you placed a kind of sacred trust in, abandoning you in the most like painful and senseless way possible, right? And there's so much of this here. I love the fact that you make a really wise choice in all of these three pieces, and that choice is to be very restrained and concise in your language. And you know me, I'm someone who I'm often a big proponent of purple prose. I'm not a "Ooh, you should always like use understatement" guy, right? I love it when authors go out and show everything they're capable of. But in these pieces, the choice to strip these poems back to to their like most sparse and essential elements, I think really makes the very raw emotion here stand out in a way like starkly that it wouldn't if you were like really like telling us, like if you were really like forcing the pain of this situation on us. I think it would ironically hurt less than the fact that you step back and just kind of lay it out in this very direct, very concise, and ultimately very powerful way. So these are just really strong pieces, Keith. And as I said, I think today was the perfect day to read them.
Well, thank you, William. I appreciate it. And I have to give Gigi some credit for inspiring me into writing poetry in a concise manner and trying to cut out words. And that's something I'd never really thought much about until he talked with me about it, different things. And I tried
Gigi
to.
is really the master of that.
Right.
Gigi says, "Don't you put that
Right.
evil on me." Gigi, no, Gigi really is. He has an incredible efficiency of language in his work, so
Yeah.
he's the perfect person to help you with that. But no, these were fantastic, Keith, and I think
Thank you.
perfect poems to open up tonight. So thank you, man.
Yeah, that the stanza that starts with "I see him hanging in the closet" and ends with "I." I really like that the way it like hits so many different things there. Like you got the suicide weapons, but you also then towards the end it ramps down and you have like the visual thing too, where the things become shorter and shorter until it's just I really like that.
Thanks, Rudy. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, and I'm glad Rudy mentioned that because that made me think of the butt poem. And
Oh yeah.
I love that. That is a really fantastic poem. Once again, really efficient in its use of language, but you really get at the feeling of futility that comes with being asked for help, or not even being asked for help, but knowing someone needs help that you can't provide, right? No, being able to see pain and desperation in another human being and knowing there's not a fucking thing you can do about it, either because you're exhausted and fatigued and depressed yourself, or because you've tried a million times and you or because you've seen people's behavioral patterns and you know you can't intercede. But the way you convey that very precise feeling of like despair at seeing a person and not being able to help you so efficiently is beautiful, I think. And your decision to end it with "but" is perfect because like I would love to do something but, and that "but" is fucking devastating, right? Which sounds like sexual harassment when I'm saying like that. But yeah, Keith, it's really good.
Thanks, everybody.
Um,
Yeah.
Colin, the a link to the Word document is in the chat if you want to scroll up, or in fact, I can drop it again. I don't believe these are published anywhere. That's right, Keith?
No,
Okay.
no, they're not. I've only been published once.
Yeah,
The Staten Islander.
the old Staten Islander. Fuck yeah.
That man, I wish Misery Tourism had stuck around long enough to publish you, Keith. I can't believe we got scooped by the fucking Staten Islander.
Fucking Staten Islander.
All right, Rudy, don't mute your mic. You're up next.
All right. To have a longer piece tonight. This is not that long, but I don't know. Fuck, I'll just. So anybody here like Fortnite? Crickets.
I do not. I actually hate Fortnite.
Nice. So this piece is called this is a Fortnite related piece. It's called How to solve the housing crisis in a fortnight. A modest proposal and review of the building mechanic in the game Fortnite. And yeah. In the year 2069, some 47 years after the start of the Great Resignation and the housing crisis is decimating. Oh, it's yeah, whatever. The housing crisis is decimating the United States. It is during this turbulent time the state of California, under Governor Mastodon Hercules, Republican, enacts the Battle Royale II Utilitarian Housing Act, the so-called BRUH Act. BRUH. BRUH establishes temporary storm zones, dynamic semi-autonomous policing light areas where all weapons and murder are legal. Storm zones created by officially sanctioned CalHUD administrators as needed are visible to those with Adobe's proprietary Clear Eye alternate reality glasses and begin to shrink inward as soon as they appear. Another, possibly more salient effect of the BRUH Act is that it makes Fortnite 2017 game real, literally, a much adored promise of the Hercules gubernatorial campaign. This shrewd political maneuver, a total 1080p reverse cowgirl no scope, wins the governor elect an unprecedented 96.69% of the vote, uniting neotech bros, Zoomer grandparents, and everyone in Cali who wants to see sexy Marvel Comics characters, or whomst ever, cut a swath of destruction through parts of Oakland. California's ecstatic GOP is cackling, saying, all your base or belong to us. Take off every $40 million Raytheon e-console equipped Zig. Massive turnout. Arousal. Big tech has a hard on because it gets to push hot garbage like Clear Eye to the masses. Air raid sirens alert people to the storm. But if you want to see your exact chances of being shot dead, it helps to have your wearable AR shit. Zoomers have a hard on because they always do, and also because they remember their glory days of esports wishes, playing Fortnite or some fucking MOBA, mugging for a webcam on a dusty ass Web 2.0, 3.0 streaming service like Twitch TV. Even though this is just a dumb fictional story, I'm getting chills imagining how gay it's going to be when somebody writes a version of Paul Simon's That Was Your Mother, where the lyrics are like, I held this job as a jungling Warwick that kept me moving from lane to lane. Most California residents have a hard on because people who live there are weird psychos who love to coin terms like local character while homeless people take dumps on the sidewalk. I guess that's what I'm saying here is that the elite NIMBY goblins who opine about solving the housing crisis while abusing CEQA have finally up and voted for a solution that satisfies both their needs, the need to talk a good fight and the need to watch their neighbors and possibly themselves, death drive enabled, die needlessly. Anyway, nobody knows how Governor Mastodon did it, but now there are colorful Jortnighters everywhere, just running, jumping, parachuting, doing the chicken dance, doing the airplane dance, doing the Carlton. The scientific consensus is that these sometimes cel-shaded, always cartoonish caricatures of humans or human-like entities are not just people wearing some kind of high-tech costumes. According to James Forrest Gutierrez, a UC Berkeley professor of computer science, they represent, quote, a new evolution in AI, an amalgam, a paradigm shift, a destruction of the barriers between two-dimensional and three-dimensional semiotics, unquote, which is a useless goddamn statement, and who cares? At any rate, the stated goal of the BRUH Act is fixing the housing crisis. So how does unleashing hordes of 3D murderers in the Bay Area, for example, do that? In this tight double space report, I'm going to explain the building mechanic in the game Fortnite in an attempt to answer the above question. So here goes. Fortnite is a really fun but also really frustrating game that also sucks unless you're the Temple Grandin of 3D space manipulation, able to assess the most benignly efficient ways to put people down with shotguns, dualies, or even a pickaxe while inside a vertical maze of walls and staircases that lead nowhere. One of Grandin's designs is a corral with curved lanes that make it so that the cattle being processed can't see far enough ahead to have doubts about their surroundings. This is basically what passes for the battle environment in Fortnite. I say battle environment, not level here, for a reason. The levels are wide open. Levels are fucking gorgeous. An openish world, you can run around with houses, ravines, snow-capped peaks, the whole 9 yards. The biomes are actually eerily similar to California. I think there's a volcano or something in there somewhere, but everybody's seen that Tommy Lee Jones movie from the 1990s. However, long story short, players can build stuff in Fortnite. And this is where you have to be Temple Grandin or a typical gamer, another TG on the autism spectrum, with the verticality and multitasking. I don't know what the developers intended a firefight to look like when they sat on Epic Games porcelain, asses parted like Zachary Ty Bryan's hair from Home Improvement, drawing silly doodles on toilet paper. But I have trouble believing that the words "an episode of Bob Vila's This Old House played at 20x speed" ever graced the core mechanics section of the Feces and Espresso tarnished game design document. Seriously, allowing players to build twisted ass structures optimized for Lovecraftian confusion has made this game fucking ridiculous. A firefight in Unreal Tournament, 1999, a shooter popular when I was young enough to dex flex on hoes and do all the other things, usually played out to this, to my reckoning. One person picks up a weird super gun named after that Brazilian statue of Jesus or some shit. They hold it without firing, waiting too long, or perhaps waiting for the Ukraine war of 2022, now into 2023, to come so that they can blast the Russians and everyone else back to ancient times where we'll all say, "Madness. This is Sparta," before kicking the Greek child rapists into a huge pit, instituting real democracy and giving women the right to vote. Step 2, 3 people shoot at them. Step 3, 2 of those 3 die from collateral damage because one of them has the rocket launcher. Step 4, satisfactual vertical repositioning happening in the static low gravity environment. Step 5, oh, now the 2 players left standing both have the rocket launcher. Step 6, oh, now they're rocket jumping, bouncing off the floor, hitting each other about 1 out of every 8 shots because it's tense and they're in some barely lit corridor and rockets are scary. And step 7, somebody either commits suicide or catches their opponent's rocket with their janky muscle-bound girl dude model, just like in real life. Contrast that with a firefight in Fortnite. A sniper shot rings out over the pristine vista. It misses. Immediately, walls start springing up around the person who was shot at on a hill overlooking her position. Strange walls appear in both locations, spiraling up, 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 up. Both combatants take out machine guns and start shooting the opposing walls so they collapse. What you can't see within the walls is a maze of other walls and staircases, and somebody frantically switching between their gun and a set of blueprints like they're a New Jersey construction foreman who knows a guy who knows a guy, and the moolies are coming up in Chambersburg and, hey, fuck you want to do? Well, what you want to do, I think, is use your erections as cover to get close enough to surround the enemy with walls and confuse them. You want to build them into a kind of dark hug box where they get squeezed, experiencing anxiety until you punch through all the smokescreen construction with your big fucking cannon and kill them point blank. But remember the storm? Well, in Fortnite and in the fictionalized California, this tale, the storm implodes, shrinking in the game the viable balance of the level, or here in this story, the viable balance of the area where the Bruh Act says you can blow somebody's top off with a 357 without going to prison. This has the effect of forcing the battle elsewhere. Keep moving or die. What happens to all that unused construction when the Jorders skirt out of there on their flying unicorns and hoverboards? Nothing, that's what. And this is where some state of California land use strategists went, holy shit. You got all these video game characters, they're real. all they do is shoot each other and occasionally homeless people and build huge, temporarily useful but soon vacated vacant structures. Can't we just repurpose those to low income to house low income people who would probably die on the street anyway? So one answer to that question is no. And wouldn't the potential problems of mashing up the movies The Purge and Battle Royale outstrip any marginal benefits of such a strategy? But that's not the answer that Governor Mastodon gave when he sat before a Senate hearing where he was grilled by the head of housing and urban development. The governor said, and I paraphrase, laugh my ass off. Just look at how hard it is to develop infill areas around Frisco. Try to get a permit there. Bitch, I'll wait. I feel like literally arming video game eidolons come to life would be easier than changing the zoning laws. To which the HUD chief responds, Caps, but you're pretty much right, bro. So now you've got all these homeless and low income folks crammed into Fortnite shacks, Hooverville feels. You've got a Piccadilly circus, dude bros, thick girls next door, and motherfuckers who look like Thanos paragliding across Cali and occasionally disassembling junkyard refuse or chopping down redwood so they can drop a whole ass cabin on someone and then drop a bomb down its chimney. I don't hear anyone complaining, and most of the Fortniters are courteously violent, avoiding civilian casualties, or at least having the good sense to plow those they slay in the sod of interstate medians with their giant pickaxes. A Spider-Man was arrested for rape after he teabagged a downed Thanos. Murder baby allowed, but come on. The people of California aren't savages. And that was in the news for a while, but mostly everyone behaves. Things are going pretty well by California standards. Gas holds steady at $12.99 a gallon. OJ is around $17.99 a gallon. There's still a little homelessness, but oh shit, now there's zombies and monsters invading. Wait, where the hell did they even come from? Nobody gives a shit about Fortnite Save the World, that entirely separate game where the targets are schlocky creatures that look like something out of sci-fi B movies from the early 2000s instead of characters controlled presumably by the vengeful Ure of no future miscreants born in the early 2000s. Many say that they're coming from whatever sorcery unleashed sentient 3D graphics on the world, a theory that cable news talking heads like MSNBC's Quavius laugh spell, the last anarcho-primitivists, have been running ratings touchdowns with. QAnon says that they come from outer space, which seems just as likely. The governor and his entourage are being really tight-lipped in their bunker that took 20 to 30 hours, 75 Priuses, and 25 endangered sequoias to construct. Already the trees, they were in the path of the wildfires anyway. Everything is basically cancerous, decaying dog shit. Oh, that's nothing new. They're probably just going to send up a MIRV and let 10 or 15 warheads sing California to sleep, like the Fall Out Boy chorus suggests. Your bedroom speakers, whoa, oh. Oh well. This is a review, so I guess it needs a score and an excuse. Fortnite sucks. Unreal Tournament probably sucks. The price of orange juice fluctuating all the time definitely sucks. Everything is negative 10 out of 1 stars. My excuse, I'm too old and bitter and sick to enjoy anything. And that's it. Oh yeah, and I also noted that yeah, Fortnite does have the zero build mode now. I don't give a shit. Fuck Fortnite. Fuck people who play Fortnite. The end.
I'm glad. I'm glad you added that. And that actually hadn't popped into my head while you were reading because I know that this is a piece from, I don't know, a few months ago. And so I did think of the zero build mode, but nonetheless. Oh
Yeah.
shit, man.
That doesn't excuse Fortnite. I don't know.
It doesn't. Negative 10 out of 1 stars.
Pretty much.
No, man, this is good shit. This is a really like ingenious satire of both video games and like urban blight. I really, I don't know. There's a lot of really great lines here. I love the way you describe video game mechanics. I love the way that you merge video game mechanics with like the mechanics of real life. I love the fact that you make it After listening to this, I'm still not sure whether the mechanics of real life or the mechanic of like real life urban planning or the mechanics of a game like Fortnite or the mechanics of a game like Unreal Tournament are like more obtuse and cumbersome. To me, like I don't want to be a part of any of those three games. All three of those games seem constructed to be played by people who are not functioning on a normal human who don't want to enjoy themselves basically. Like all those games seem fundamentally broken, right? Like Unreal Tournament favors like twitch reflexes and an abuse of fundamentally like broken physics. Fucking
Or
Fortnite
Unreal Tournament. But yeah, you're
Fortnite
right.
is just like, as you say yourself, a game that's not being played even as the developers intended, right? That's just been warped into something just by sheer dumb luck, been warped into something completely incomprehensible that seems to be crack for 13-year-olds nonetheless. And of course, urban planning sucks, and I'm glad I don't live in San Francisco or whatever. Anyway, man, good shit, good shit.
Fortnite.
Man, though, the best part of the entire piece, my favorite part anyway, even though it was a complete non sequitur, are your Paul, your improvised Warwick Paul Simon lyrics.
Oh yeah, I mean that was your mother, right? I mean
Man, I could hear Paul Simon singing that as you singing your lyrics as you recited it.
it's
Uh,
pretty sad to think that one day like that'll be us singing some version of that.
I mean,
That's just sad because what
probably
will we
not
say?
us, unless that
Well,
day
probably
is
not.
in the
Well,
next
not us,
couple of
and
years before we die. But
yeah, but the
somebody our
idea is
age.
somebody our age. It's like, yeah, but what do they have to sing about? I mean, I guess Warwick, right?
Right. Right.
Anyway,
Oh
thanks.
man, good shit, man. GG is up next. And I reached for my glass of water and almost picked up my Slinky instead. So you almost saw me try to drink out of my Slinky. But anyway, it's all yours, GG.
All right, let me get a link here. I think this should work. I got most of these when I was a teenager, so they're pretty immature, but they're vaguely Jesus related. So it seems appropriate for Good Friday. All right, this first one's called Art History. Michelangelo sometimes felt self-conscious while carving or drawing dicks. He would pretend to be working another part of the art if he heard someone. Often he was not fast enough or too focused. A pope would say, Mike, you've been working on that dick for at least a week now. What do you say we move on? Maybe the shoulders could use some work? In the bottom right corner of the ceiling of the Sistine mural is a drawing of a dick covered by that pope's face. The Medici family is discussed in the town square. They are financing artists to paint and sculpt dicks. In a social situation, Michelangelo says, sorry, but I need to get back to the Vatican. I just gotta finish shading Jesus's dick. Michelangelo and Da Vinci engage in painting competitions, but just measure dicks. This one's called Some People Walk Around with a Torture Device Next to Their Neck. I'm terrified that everyone else is just a person who also notices other people or the bus when it's almost here. What if every person is just like us? Imagine the insanity of humans unable to communicate. Humans sometimes kill each other and other times do the opposite. Both are good or bad or something. This one's called Powdered Lemon Flavoring. If someone believes in God, they should be in heaven with God. Communication serves a purpose, something survival related. Did you know getting murdered gives you a free pass? That's the last one. This one's called Jesus. Jesus is the only Jewish fellow we are encouraged to celebrate the death of. That's all I got.
GG. GG that last poem. I am not going to comment on the last poem. The first one though, tell me if I'm wrong, but we published that, right?
Yeah, you
I'm
did.
glad I can still remember that. I love that first poem. I think it's just annihilates all the pretensions that we have about art and like the value of art, the meaning of art, the beauty of classical art. And like classical art is beautiful, but people attach such significance to it, put it on such a pedestal, and they were just dudes drawing dicks like us, right? And I love the fact that the poem brings us down to that. And these other ones are very good too. And as was true of Keith's poems, and as is usually or always true of your poems, they have a great efficiency of language, and they really pack a powerful emotional punch. And that last one especially has a great efficiency of language. Thank you, man. Thank you for
Yeah,
Thanks
you
for letting me
might
read.
you might say that, oh boy, I really shouldn't make that joke, but
you started now. You may
I was gonna say there are very few things as efficient as the language used in that last poem. But god damn it, now I have to make the joke. But I was gonna say
I feel
the IBM machine is one thing that is that efficient. Damn it, GG, you made me do that. You work. No, those are awesome, dude. The first one, like obviously I like it because we published it, but like the shading the dicks is that's a great imagery. Gotta finish shading Jesus's dick. That's so good.
I can't get over the fact that like these great masters of art had to spend, or whatever their interns did or whatever their apprentices, they just
Yeah.
spent so much time sculpting like boobs and dicks. And yeah, I don't know, it's funny to me.
It reminds me of the Family Guy line, which is like one of the only funny lines in Family Guy. It was like, "Am I supposed to sculpt the penis?" No, those were really awesome,
Thanks.
awesome shit.
Yeah, thank you, man. So, Colin, did you still want to read? You had posted that you didn't want to read anymore, but I thought it might be a joke. So I want to get so since I'm so bad at reading cues here, I wanted to give you the chance to read if you did want to read.
Yeah, that was a joke.
Okay, good.
Because
good.
I was so stunned by Keith's stuff. It was so good. And then
Well,
everybody
the floor
says,
is yours, Colin. And
yeah,
like,
I'll read this thing. It's a little bit experimental. It's called The Drifting Scow. I'll explain it if it needs explaining afterwards. Here we go. The Drifting Scow gazed up at what seemed to me to be an impossibly tall ship keel. I now know. I agreed to the man's terms with a great stirring in my seat. Out of Africa, pants full of gold, lost everything. Pirate and pilot? Far across the water, an owl hooted. I knew it was Mr. Harris. Stealing from friends? I lost it. Stealing from friends, breaking promises to their mothers, fornicating, front an audience of peers, is all in a day's work to a Portuguese sailor. Where's the booty, swine? We would tell any given English captain. I shrugged, knowing Padre Tone liked to talk about dogs. You do that for me, he told me in a raunchy undertone, and I shall go anywhere with thee. But it was a bad moon and a worse hangover. At this time, I was but 117 years old, if indeed it was 1797. You can do it, chuckled the captain. Look, it's right over there. A child of 5 could do it. It would be a tall fortress of stout timbers, deep moat, drawbridge, and inside would loom a grand keep. Get in there, hit them hard, finish the job, so they never know what hit them. No letters home, no rumors, no witnesses. He smiled. Now we can destroy them piecemeal. William chirped, apparently eating an apple. But what if we run across a tribe of powerful Amazons whom we wish to incorporate into the party? I said, when we have a fighting ship, then we can do anything we want. William unloads the cargo of the drifting scow. Scow, I say, not cow. A drifting cow, that would be crazy. And some say that Big Africa is made out of cheese. Now, imagine being here without any clothes on whatsoever, I chuckled. No survivors, we scoffed. Not one, despite the flotsam. William said he dreamed he'd gone on shore, gone up into the hills, gone where he and his boys discovered an old mine. We soon had ourselves a passable frigate, a sloop of 18 tons. I told William he could have his little troop of cutthroats and go. We found the living, dire pirate, Captain Avery, cast away on a desolate strand with his men. She was a little hard body of 10 guns. Those are the only 2 options, mused William. These are not Dutch waters, we told them. These are not even Dutch sands. But they spit on our pretty feet. But we got our spices, sent the others into the English factories, changed our goods for silver and gaudy tights. Now, if it ain't one thing, it sure is another. Where was my gay Quaker? Where was my cajoling, giggly doctor? When the tide went out, we scrambled down, walked entirely around the ship, and a big one she was. Said William, a threat. I will make like a tree and paddle back to my ship. The same night we wrangled her off, swum and slung her at anchor in deep water, for we have already murdered your jolly boat men, they scowled. Does Sail on Satan have any books I could borrow? I apologize. I'm sorry. I was wrong and unhappily drunk. Forgive me. Say you still love me. Tell me I have a fighting chance. Baby, please, I'm yours. I thought of many ways of killing William's new friend. Don't be an asshole, said William, knocking the pistol from my grip as I squeezed off a round that sewed and zwanged off through the barley. William said, be calm, Captain Bob. God and all women love you. Yeah, that's it.
Man, Colin, I really dig this poem. I really and it sounds like Rudy's going pretty mad for it in the chat too. So I'm sure he's gonna have something to say. But I want to talk about it really quickly because I really love the way that you've constructed this, because I love the way that you've taken like the like classical age of like colonialism and exploit, and I almost said exploitation, and I guess it was that too, and exploration, right? And
It
merged
is
it
exploitation.
with like really deconstructive, playful language, and this like undercurrent of like of like perverse sexuality, right? And it all comes together in this really a kind of wonderfully, I think, subversive and playful whole that like hints at the ugliness of this era, right? But isn't just consumed by the ugliness of this moment in history, and gets at, I don't know, it gets at something, the fact that we are, I think, there's something inherently romantic about that moment in history, about like the dawn of the colonial era when people are out discovering the new world and there's still like a frontier on the horizon. But there's like also something obviously deeply perverse and exploitative about that moment too. And you managed to kind of find the synthesis of those two things in a really, I think, cool way in this poem. But yeah, I think Rudy has something to. I feel like Rudy probably has something to say because he was talking in the chat a fair amount.
Yeah, I just dig the language, and I mean, your performance was really, really good in this, the like cadence and the way you hit the like different voices and stuff, like the different, but no, like the language, like it reminds me of like basically, I almost wanted to say colonial Jabberwock, but I guess Jabberwocky, but I guess that was made at a time it was kind of vaguely still that kind of adventurism type of thing going on. But like, I love, like William mentioned, like the perversity of colonialism mixed with just the straight up adventure of it, which is something that a lot of like stories and stuff still recount and still go back to. It's like, like you can cringe or whatever at the parts of Rudyard Kipling that are really, race like in the wrong type of stuff. But like everybody is still. I mean, there's a reason the Jungle Book's still in print and still widely read and stuff like that. It's, it's, yeah. I mean, it's just a wild kind of, it's a wild ride, and you capture that wild ride aspect at the same time as you, as William said, note the perversity and the lunacy of all of it. It's just really good. I really like it.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Rudy. But I cheated, of course. This is actually, these are not words from the original document, but this is a poem loosely adapted from the life adventures and piracies of the famous Captain Singleton.
Oh
by
man,
Captain Defoe.
Okay.
that's great.
So
Oh, yeah,
I
that's
took my
awesome.
favorite. I took my favorite parts of that book, which was
Yeah.
like I read 10 times when I was 10.
Yeah.
You know, it's a little boy's book, but and from there I wrote this poem. But the
Man.
language is my own. I actually wrote a 120,000 word adaptation in my own words
Oh wow, that's
Man, that's
of that
great.
novel,
That-
and then I distilled it down to these lines, 3 pages.
that actually makes it even better because
yeah.
the fact that because so much the language is suggestive, right? The fact that it was hiding there in what's ostensibly a children's story is pretty cool. All right.
It's a good book. Of course, I cut out all the bad, all the, I mean, really, really bad stuff. There's a lot of bad stuff. A
No,
lot of
I mean,
slavery.
no, I mean it's awesome. I just want to say like like I think it's Kathy Acker has like an adaptation of Treasure Island that's like kind of in that same spirit, I think, sort of. But it's like like this weird like. But no, I really love. There's a line in there that's like, was it sewed and zwanged?
I
Yeah.
don't even know how to pronounce it.
Zwang.
I'll read it here.
Zwanged. It's so
How
good.
do you,
Like
how would you say that word?
so. Oh, so okay. Yeah, I'm
Sewed?
not. I guess yeah.
Yeah,
I was
think so.
homeschooled, so I don't know.
I was
So-
also
so-
homeschooled, so I'm just give my best guess as well.
No, it was really that
I think
was
it's in the
really
dictionary.
Yeah. But that rocks, Colin. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah.
Cool.
So does anyone else, I do have something I want to do to close out the night here, but before we do that, and I'm going to need volunteers too, but before we do that, I do want to give anyone who came hoping to read a last chance to read. So if you would like to read, just put something in the chat here in the next minute or so. And if not, we'll move on to what I was going to do. I have a kind of Good Friday tradition that I've been doing for the last few years that we're going to do again this year. Actually, I'm going to refill my water really quick. So just last call. If nobody has put in the chat that they want to read when I get back, we'll start on the other. All right, I am back. Okay. What did I miss? Somebody says John Casey's doing something crazy. Oh, I can't even. Anyway, all right, okay. Nobody wants to read, so we're going to. So we are going to do something that I've done the past few years, which is so I have a piece that I wrote way back in like 2017 or something that's like passion themed. And since it is Good Friday, in the past I've read it, but last year part of it is like a play, and we actually divided up roles and did it like a little passion play. And this year, I think we'll take it one step farther, and I'll delegate reading all or most of it, depending on how many volunteers we get. Because I don't like to read my own work, but also because I think it's more fun performed as a kind of passion play, and more in keeping with the like spirit of Holy Week. So, yeah, I need some volunteers.
Well, I wouldn't be the first to not volunteer.
What? Fuck
Because-
you.
Because no, you're gonna have to draft me because no Jesus ever called me nigger. Lord, I apologize. I just no, I want to be pilot.
So you want to be pilot? All right.
Yeah.
Okay, you could. So basically, I have 4 big roles and 6 small roles. So pilot was one of the big roles. If you get a big role, it means you're going to have to read like a section of text. If you get a small role, you'll just have to be a character in the play section. Okay. Pilot's one of the big roles. You can be pilot, Rudy.
No, that's the one where the dream pilot's dream and stuff. That's okay.
Yeah,
that's one of my favorite pieces. So I want to.
It's Saturday. Pontius Pilate sleeps in, and so
Gotcha.
yeah, you've got that one, Rudy. Actually, GG, can I ask you to be Jesus, GG? Okay. GG,
Sure.
Jesus. So GG, you'll be reading, there's a part in the Thursday one. In fact, here, I'll put the link here so in the chat now so people can read it. You'll have a short section in the Thursday one, and then I want you to read the last. There's a poem at the end for Sunday. So you'll read the one line. You have one line in the Thursday section, and then you'll read the poem at the end.
Okay.
Let's see here. Who need a few other volunteers? I'll just start. John Padula wants a big role. Okay.
I only got to read like 2 lines the last time we did this.
Okay, yeah. You know what, John? I'm gonna make you the good thief. You can read that section. That's Friday. So I have 1 more big roll and 6 more little rolls left. Colton, are you up? Will you are you still with us, Colton? Will you take one?
Give Durbin a big one. Durbin like actually has performed in plays and
Ooh,
shit. He can give
awesome.
us a good performance.
Durbin, will you take my last big roll here?
So you posted the link.
I just put the link in the chat. Yeah. The role you would be reading the first section here, the man who is Legion testifies. You can be the demon possessed man. Do you want to be the demon possessed man, Durbin?
Sure.
Okay.
Let me get it
And-
together here.
Mhm.
I mean, come on, hear that voice. That's a performing
It's a
voice
good
right
voice. So now we just have 6 small rolls left. What did you say, Colton? Were you in or out?
there. John Casey said he'd take one.
Uh,
Damn it. Is my thing on? Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Yeah, I'm in. I'll do a small roll.
Okay. Why don't you, Colton, I am going to give you Thomas, I think. All
Ooh.
right. Who else? I've got 5 left.
What small
John
roles are
Casey
left?
said he'd take one.
Oh, John Casey. Okay, John, you can be Simon Peter, John Casey. Brandon, will you be my James, Brandon?
Boy, it's almost like that's my middle name.
There you go.
Ah.
Is that your middle name? That's also my dad's middle
Yeah,
name.
actually it is.
Wow. So we have Ryan. Ryan, will you participate, Ryan? Yep, sure. I can a minor part. Okay, let me just check here because I don't want to accidentally give you one of the guy. If you can be Philip. Philip, I think, is a relatively small role. So I need one or two more. Is there anyone who I haven't? Oh, Keith. Keith. Will you be let me see. Let me just check here. Uh Keith, how do you feel about profanity? I've got one of the two roles left has profanity in it. Do you want profanity or not?
Sure.
Okay, I want to hear Keith swear, so I'm making Keith Andrew. And is there anyone else who wants to do this? If not, I will just take the one role that's left. You know what?
Who am I again?
Oh, John, you are going to be Simon Peter.
Simon Peter. Okay, thank you.
You know what? Ramona, will you be my Matthew, Ramona? Ramona!
Ramona.
Ramona is suddenly decided she was AFK, I think. Oh, yes.
She said
Okay.
yes.
Ramona will be Matthew. Okay. Yeah, I don't have to read. Okay, just to recap. The first section, the man who was Legion testifies. Durbin's going to be reading that. And then in the second section, Gethsemane, Brandon is James. John Casey is Simon Peter. Ryan is Philip. Colton is Thomas. Keith is Andrew. Ramona is Matthew. John is the good thief, so you'll be reading Friday. And Rudy will be reading Saturday, Pontius Pilate. And Gigi is Jesus, so he'll be he has a little part in Thursday, and then he'll be reading Sunday. Are we ready to roll?
I assume you're narrating, right?
Oh yeah.
There's nothing to. I'll read the titles, okay? I'll read the titles, and then the people can read their parts. Okay then.
So I'm only reading the beginning part there, the Legion.
You're reading the prologue.
Okay.
So this is the Passion. The first part is prologue. The man who was Legion testifies.
I used to live over there beyond those hills in the catacombs and sleep on the soft earth of fresh graves. I used to throw myself on the ground and eat the dirt they buried the dead men in. And then I'd go out into the town with my mouth full of dirt and scream and scream. I would scream nonsense. I'd scream words that no man understood, that I myself did not understand, until the men of the village came and chased me back to the tombs with sticks. But now I only have one story that I can tell, the story of my deliverance. From today until the day I die, I must tell every man who I meet about how I was saved, because that's what he asked me to do. Go, he said, and tell them how much I have done for you. He will let me do nothing else. Even if I wanted to disobey, I could not. Because my mind is sterile. I have not had an original thought since the spirits left me. Some nights I go out and swim in the water off the cliffs, in the same bay where the pigs threw themselves and drowned, and I will open my mouth and swallow as much of the sea as I can. Where else could my demons have gone after all but into the water? I do not think they could have drowned. But it is no use. I am sane now. My mind is quiet, and I wish to die, but he has also given me the gift of eternal life.
Thursday, Gethsemane. A dry and uncomfortably warm spring evening in Jerusalem, soon after dusk. Following a cheap meal, Jesus and his disciples have gathered in a garden at the base of the Mount of Olives and intend to spend the night there. Jesus has taken Simon Peter aside and is speaking quietly to him alone. The other disciples are seated on the ground, watching the conversation. They say nothing to each other and are obviously straining to hear what is being said. But even in the stale, windless air, the words are too soft to reach their ears. Eventually, Jesus, visibly distressed, turns and walks into the trees and out of sight, while Simon Peter throws his hands up in an exaggerated display of frustration and returns to the others.
What was that about? More prima donna bullshit?
He says I've rejected him, or I'm going to reject him. Apparently I'm not loyal, not really. After all this fucking time, all these nights, sleeping on the ground, the lepers, the whores, that shit with the pigs. After all of it, now I'm not trustworthy. I watched him throw that hissy fit in the temple, make an ass of himself and all of us, at the holiest of all holy places. And I didn't say a word. You saw me. There he was, ranting and raving in front of the priests, of the elders, in front of the women, in front of children with that whip, that weapon in his hands. And I didn't even gasp. I didn't say, okay, buddy, calm down. You're making a scene. I didn't do what I should have done, what every ounce of my dignity and good sense was begging me to do, and say, you know what, screw this, and just walk out then and there. No, I stood right by his side like a moron, and now fuck me, I'm just another traitor, I guess.
Yeah, another.
Several of the disciples laugh at this. Andrew spits on the ground.
Judas had the right idea. Just get up and walk off. Don't even say anything. He was so cool about it, too. So collected. That bastard would have really been drinking his own blood if he had called me a traitor, right there at the table in front of everyone.
What was that all about, anyway? The cannibalism stuff, I mean.
Isn't it obvious? We're all parasites. We're literally eating him alive. Hungry ticks hanging off his immaculate body.
Literal fucking ticks. Fleas and bed bugs. Every one of us.
While they speak, John lies down. He stares absently at the starless sky, oblivious to the conversation around him, and eventually falls asleep.
I don't know. I thought maybe he was threatening to kill himself. It wasn't what he said exactly, but the tone he used. There was something so, fatalistic about the whole thing. And now he's off crying somewhere. You saw his face a minute ago. He's unhinged. And he always seems so, not fragile, but insecure. Like he distrusts himself. Like even he is afraid of what he'll do next.
Manipulative, that's what he is. You don't threaten to kill yourself. You do it or you don't. When you talk about your own death that way, trying to get something out of someone, it's conniving. It's what you do when you want something, but you're too cowardly or weak to ask. Or the other person won't give it willingly.
It's real faggot shit is what it is.
Matthew has been listening silently but intently to this conversation. His expression, as usual, is serious, but sadder than at dinner. When he does speak, he sounds weary, exhausted.
I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if I'm a sucker. The humiliation of being a tax collector isn't exactly like they say. Nobody was spitting on me in the street. No one threw any stones. No, it's more like this sort of quiet condescension that follows you around. The subtle clucking in people's tones, a constant that is never quite vocalized. You're not an outcast, but you're isolated. And when you feel that way, to have someone approach you, to have someone choose you and outright say, "Come with me," it's vindicating. It's thrilling. But now that I look back at that and I think, could he see my vulnerability? Did he know how badly I needed to be wanted? And did he take advantage of that? I wonder if that's the heart of this con. I used to think I was a smart guy. I'm educated after all. Sophisticated, worldly wise. Not a fisherman or a day laborer, no offense. But maybe I've been taken for a fool. Like I said, a sucker.
Ryan.
Fuck, sorry.
That's okay.
I thought it only had one line. A tool.
No, pussies. That's what we are. Because we're still sitting here bitching like we always do. Just like last night, tomorrow morning we'll get up and follow them into some new fiasco. And tomorrow night we'll be sitting here or somewhere else in the bare, dirty ground again, bitching.
Maybe.
Oh God, here he comes.
The disciples quickly lay down and pretend that they're asleep. Enter Jesus, unkempt, his face stained with tears.
Are you asleep? You couldn't stay awake with me for 1 hour? Get up, look.
Enter Judas, followed by a crowd. Friday, the good thief in paradise.
I didn't know him before they strung him up next to me. I had never heard his name mentioned. I have no interest in politics or religion. Prophets and revolutionaries are born losers. They are caught in a vicious cycle. They think their bad luck is a result of their righteousness. That indifference is the same as persecution. So every time they get robbed, they take it as proof of character. When the house wins, they assume the game is rigged. Not that they are victims of their own poor judgment. And rather than become smarter players, they yearn to flip the tables over. Sometimes, if they can get enough sore losers together, they even do it. But ending the game will never be the same as winning it. And that was my first thought when they dropped that pole in the ground and we were face to face for the first time. I looked at him and I saw the congealed blood running from the thorns in his hair and smelled the vinegar on his breath. And I heard the centurions at our feet casting lots for his dirty shirt. And I thought, this man is a loser. The pain was so bad then, and I am not a man with high pain tolerance, having spent my life taking judicious risks, or so I thought, and avoiding the unnecessary, silly agony that more ambitious, less sensible men find in love and work. But in that moment, looking at the face of a man more fucked up than I was, the throbbing in my wrists and ankles left me, and the burning hell of slow asphyxiation relaxed long enough for me to appreciate a moment of wonder at this sucker and the undisguised, innocent torture in his eyes. Here was a man who never had a poker face. And that was very nearly the moment of my damnation. But then I heard the mob. They were jeering him, taunting him. If you are God, save yourself. If Elijah is really your pal, see if you can score a ride in his heavenly chariot, etc., etc. You've heard this part before, and it wasn't what they were saying as much as the unwavering confidence of their tone that gave me pause. They were so sure of themselves, his divinity was an impossibility to them. And that's the other great mistake of suckers. They think in terms of the possible and the impossible. Reality for them is concrete, it's real, but reality's reality is a lie. Reality is probably a probability. Reality is odds, and sometimes if your potential losses are small enough and the pot is rich enough, it pays to bet on a supposed impossibility. And hell, in that moment, what could I have lost that was not already being choked from me? The losers had their hands around my throat as it was. No, they had their arms down my throat. Their fingers were tickling the sacs of my lungs. So I looked at the sign above his head, and I took every derisive, sarcastic word at face value. I turned to the battered, naive face, and I looked in those eyes, the eyes of a patsy as much as a prophet. And I said, "Forgive me, Lord, forgive me, save me," or something to that effect. And I won myself the key to the gates of heaven. Not only that, but I was the first one through the door. Not Moses, not Jeremiah, who suffered so much for his self-righteousness, not even Christ himself. who is off bailing some old Jewish saints out of hell, I guess. Me. And if you think I don't deserve to be here, if you think I didn't earn it, then I urge you to sit across from me at the table there, and I'll deal. I see they gave you a golden harp on the way in. I'll take that as collateral.
Saturday, Pontius Pilate sleeps in.
Pontius Pilate awoke. He had slept soundly the night before. His wife, who was still asleep beside him, had had no nightmares. He hadn't woken up to feel her gripping his wrist with both hands. He hadn't had to roll over on his side and kiss her forehead while she sobbed through tightly closed eyelids and gnashed her teeth. She didn't speak to him in gibberish words, not Latin, not Aramaic, while he held her face against his chest, nor had she spit or scratched, as she had on the worst night, Thursday, when all the unconscious tremors and secret terrors of her disturbed sleep had finally climaxed in a fit of prolonged dry heaving that failed to bring up even one morsel of her dinner from that evening. No, she had not disturbed him at all. His own sleep had been dreamless, and he had no memory of having slept, but he felt calm and refreshed. Outside it rained lightly, a relief after a week that had been oppressively warm. Even when the clouds had finally come the afternoon before, they had brought only darkness with them and no hint of moisture. But now the morning air was cool. Although he had no real interest in Jewish traditions, he had become fond of the Sabbath. It was a welcome escape from the mix of fanaticism, both religious and political, and banality that had come to dominate his working days. Every zealot was lighting candles. Every Messiah was eating braided bread. The cycle of conflict and the anticipation of conflict, which many men seem to be slaves of, more so than of Rome, took a grudging break for one day out of 7, and this morning he did not have to fear for the time when rigor and pragmatism would not be weapons enough to keep barbarism, or worse, idealism, at bay. This morning he could sleep late and listen to the rain. He wondered how many millions of men throughout history had been comforted by the sound of morning rain. He knew he had heard it talked about, had read about moments like this before, many times before, had himself had this experience on many other mornings since childhood, maybe since infancy. Maybe all of humanity, every man, had felt that waking calm, had been softened by the sound of falling water. He closed his eyes and saw all those men, thousands and thousands, lying on their backs, and all that rainwater in unending floods settling in the Dead Sea, falling and evaporating, leaving only salt behind. And his peace was transformed into horror. He reached out and grabbed his wife's wrist, waking her.
Sunday, Jesus rises from the dead.
There is still pain in his hands, in his feet, in his side. The shroud is caked with dried blood and clings to his skin. He checks his wounds to see if he is still bleeding. He is. The tomb is open, morning light enters where the rock once was, but standing is difficult. And all this after just 33 years, 1/3 of the trinity of a natural life. What a burden it will be to walk into that light and preach hope. In the field of clay, Judas hangs, desiccated and at rest.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Thank you for reading that. I really appreciate it. I wanted to present it in some way this year because it's become kind of an annual tradition, but every year I get lazier and want to read less and less. So I really appreciate it. You guys did a fucking fantastic job. Everyone's delivery was awesome. Thank you so much, guys. And I think
awesome.
Thanks. And I think we're gonna leave it there for tonight. As always, I'm gonna keep this. It's only 9:30. I'm gonna keep the Zoom meeting open so people can hang out. And yeah, and anyway, this has been Misery Loves Company. A big fucking thank you to everyone who came here tonight and shared their work. Everything was phenomenal. And we do this, as I said at the top, every Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. Anyone is welcome to come and share their work. Anyone is welcome to just come and hang out and listen. You can, we will tweet out the link right before we start. As I said, around 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, from our Twitter account at Misery Tourism. I've forgotten my spiel for the end, so I'm going to close it there. Happy Easter, everyone. Have a good one.